In the previous clip you learned that the last update wins when multiple users update the same blob. This is the default behavior. But now, Sarah just told you that an update should fail if another user has updated the same blob in the meantime. This means in other words that this last update wins approach is not enough. That's the reason why you will learn now how to implement optimistic concurrency. Optimistic concurrency means that before you update, you check if the blob was changed in the meantime by another user. To check if the blob was changed, you can use the blob's entity tag or short E tag. This E tag is a read-only property of a blob that changes every time when you update the blob. Of course, it includes metadata updates. Now in this demonstration, you learn how to use a blob's E tag to implement optimistic concurrency. Before we switch to Visual Studio, let's take a look at the E tag in the Azure portal. Here I've opened the Coffee Videos container. Let's select the Skateboarder MP4 blob. As you can see, the properties of that blob contain the E tag. Let's just look at it and you can see it ends with 67F. Now let's scroll down and let's just update the metadata of that blob. And let's click Save. Now let's scroll up and you can see the E tag ends now with 1E0. Let's scroll down and let's remove that X again from the description in the metadata and let's click Save. Let's scroll up again to the E tag and you can see it has changed again. Now let's use this E tag in the Coffee Video admin application to check if a blob was updated in the meantime by another user. So let's switch to Visual Studio. Here I've opened the Coffee Video storage class. In the previous clip you have implemented this override video async method. Now let's implement the logic here to manage concurrency. So let's get rid of this to-do comment. The cloud blob has a properties property that is of type blob properties. In that property you find the E tag that is of type string. Now let's use this E tag to check if the blob was changed in the meantime by another user. To do this, you could grab another cloud blob instance for the same blob and compare the two E tags. But there is a much simpler way. All you need to do is to create an access condition. The access condition class has a property ifMatchEtag. And to that property, you just assign the E tag from your cloud blob. Now you need to pass that access condition to the upload from byte array async method. So when you look at that method, you can see it has an overload that takes an access condition. So let's pass in the access condition we have just created and let's pass in null values for the other parameters. Now the override video async method is implemented. Let me just copy this access condition and let's also use it actually in the delete video async method. If another user has updated the blob in the meantime, I don't want to delete it. So let's create here an access condition and also an overload of the delete async method takes an access condition. Let's first pass in the delete snapshot option none, then our access condition and twice null for the other parameters. Now let's scroll down to the update metadata async method. Here is also a to-do comment, manage concurrency when updating the blob's metadata. So let's get rid of this comment. Let's create here the access condition with the blob's E tag. And let's pass that access condition to the setMetadataAsync method. Now we are done in the Coffee Video Storage class. But what happens actually if this access condition is not met? If that happens, a storage exception is thrown. This means now you can catch that storage exception in the Coffee Video View model that calls the methods of the Coffee Video Storage instance. So let's go to the Coffee Video View model and let's scroll down to the Override Video Async method. As you can see, this Override Video Async method of the Coffee Video View model calls the Override Video Async method of the Coffee Video Storage instance. We catch already exceptions, but now let's be more specific and let's catch the storage exception. I press Ctrl- to add a using for Microsoft Windows Azure Storage. Now let's only catch this exception when a specific condition is met. The exception has a request information property, and that request information property has an HTTP status code. So now we can check if that HTTP status code is equal to HTTP status code. I press Ctrl dot to add a using for system.net, and let's check for the HTTP status code precondition failed. In addition, I check if the request information's error code is condition not met. If that's the case, it means the E tag has changed in the meantime. But what do we do now? We should reload the data for the blob, including the metadata. And to do this, I have already created a method. It is called showVideoChangedMessage and reload async. Before I show you this method, let's just copy this catch block. Let's scroll down. Here you can see the delete video async method. Let's paste the catch block also here. And let's scroll down. And here you can see the update metadata async method. And let's paste the catch block also here. Now let's scroll down to the bottom of the Coffee Video ViewModel class. Here you can see the showVideoChangedMessage and reload async method. This method displays a message dialog with the message, someone else has changed this video, we reload it, and then you can update. After the dialog was displayed, the metadata is reloaded, and a property changed event is raised for the blob URI with sastoken property. This property is used by the media element in the UI that displays the video. When the property changed event occurs, the media element will automatically re-grab the video from blob storage. Now we are done and we have implemented optimistic concurrency. Let's see it in action and let's run the application. I go to the taskbar and I start another instance of the Coffee Video admin application. Let's select the skateboarder MP4 file in both applications. In the right application, I update the title to Coffee Skater and I click on Update Metadata. Now in the left application, I update the title to Coffee on the Board and I click on Update Metadata. Now you can see someone else has changed this video. We reload it and then you can update. Now let's close this and you can see we have the new title here, Coffee Skater. Now I can try again. Let's write here Coffee on the Board. I click on Update Metadata and now the title is actually updated. When the user on the right side tries to change the title now, then this user will also get the message that someone else has changed this video. And when this user closes the dialog, the title is also refreshed. Now let's also try to overwrite the blob. So I click here on the right application on Overwrite Video and I select the original video, the skateboarder MP4 blob. The blob was uploaded and now let's try to overwrite that video in the left application. I select here the skateboarder showvid file. Also here I get the information that someone else has changed this video, we reload it and then you can update. As soon as I click close, the video is refreshed and now I can see also the skateboard video with me drinking a coffee while skateboarding. Great! So now you have seen how to implement optimistic concurrency by using a blob's E tag. Now let me show you how to implement pessimistic concurrency.